It is not a good idea to be too harsh a critic of the Russian government, as Alexei Navalny found out. This is the gentleman who was supposedly poisoned with a nerve agent by the Russians. Well, let's talk about nerve agents because they are in the news, and it's interesting to talk about just what these things are and how they work. So we have a little setup here. We have the ending of a nerve cell, the receiving part of an adjacent nerve cell, and in between these two nerve cells we have a gap. It's called the synapse. Inside of that synapse we have a variety of enzymes. This is going to play the role of one specific enzyme. So let me tell you what happens in our nervous system. When one nerve is stimulated, it releases a chemical called a neurotransmitter. The key playing that role. It crosses the gap, the synapse, and fits into a receptor on the adjacent nerve cell. And if it's the right fit, it unlocks a mechanism and the information gets transmitted. After that, the neurotransmitter leaves the receptor and it is chewed up by an enzyme in the synapse so that you don't get overstimulation. So what does a nerve agent do? A nerve agent is a chemical that prevents the neurotransmitter from being degraded. So, in fact, what it does is it occupies the site on the enzyme into which that neurotransmitter would fit. So if it doesn't get degraded, it will stick around and keep stimulating. And the overstimulation is what causes the problem, because the neurotransmitter in question here is acetylcholine. Acetylcholine has the ability of stimulating muscle contractions and reducing the heart rate. And if there's enough stimulation, it can lead to death. So how does one treat this situation? So what you have to do is to make sure that that neurotransmitter gets degraded. If the enzyme is blocked, you gotta somehow unblock it. And there is another drug that comes into play here. It's a drug called pralidoxime, and that can come along and remove the offending molecule from the enzyme and allow the acetylcholine to be degraded. There's another way of treating, and that is the use of a drug called atropine. Now, what does atropine do? Atropine has a shape very similar to acetylcholine so that it fits the receptor, but it's the wrong key. So no matter how we manipulate it, it does not unlock, it does not stimulate any kind of activity. So it's a dual approach to treating someone who's been poisoned by a nerve agent. First, you've got to make sure that the site in the enzyme is free to break down the acetylcholine, which means that you have to remove the nerve agent from that enzyme, and that can be done with another drug. And furthermore, you use atropine to block the receptor so that even if this neurotransmitter is around, it does not fit. Alexei Navalny benefited from this treatment in a German hospital. But there are many others, of course, who succumbed to nerve agents, either in warfare or at the hands of the Russian Secret Service. Today, there's a lot of commotion about this. The Germans and the French are accusing Russia, and they want information about exactly what happened. As far as the Americans go, President Trump seems to have taken a hands-off approach, which is not surprising when it comes to his respect for Putin.